Here's every team up ability in Marvel Rivals explained in 1 minute or less with tips so you know what to pick and when to use it. But before we dive into the actual team ups, I do see a common misconception going around that I really feel like we should clear up. So in Marvel Rivals, there are both team up holders and team up users. The team up holders are the ones that enable other team ups to actually work, and the team up users are the ones that actually use the team ups. And from what I understand, team ups are seasonal, and there's always going to be one part of the equation that can't use them. So in order to compensate for this, the team up holder will have a individual seasonal buff, which you can always read up about in the hero menu. And here's the big kicker: the team up doesn't have to be active for them to have the buff. Just picking the hero on its own is enough to activate this seasonal bonus. Another misconception is that it's the same bonus per class or some other different definition, which is also not true. It varies per hero. Some heroes might have a plus 10% damage boost, some heroes might have plus 15% damage boost. It really depends. So if you are curious about the specifics, you can always make sure to check that out in the menu when you have time. Generally speaking though, seeing as the bonus always is active, I'd argue it doesn't really make any sense to distinguish it separately from the heroes' base stats. But I digress, and with that out of the way, let's go into the actual team ups. First off, we have Ragnarok Rebirth. If you have a Hela on your team, this team up gives Loki and Thor the ability to respawn near instantly. Both Loki and Thor respawn in the same place that they died, but Loki spawns with 90% of his health and Thor spawns with 80% of his health remaining. If they're alive when Hela gets a kill, they will instead receive 50 bonus health. The bonus health can stack twice up to 100 bonus health. Seeing as Hela already is a must pick in this preseason, this makes an already great hero that much better. So if you already have a Hela on your team, then picking Thor or Loki might be worth it, not only because they're pretty solid heroes, but because odds are you are going to instantly get back into the fight if you happen to get caught, and an instant revive might be one of the most valuable things you could ask for in a game like Marvel Rivals. But obviously, while the team up is good, making a great hero a lot better, it's not enough to make up for a bad pick, so ultimately you do need to take the overall team composition into consideration before you team up with the Hela. After that, there is Metallic Chaos. If you have a Scarlet Witch on your team, this unlocks a new ability for Magneto by the name of Magnetic Fusion. Activating this ability pulls out a big sword that not only damages nearby enemies, but it also sends out a slash that pierces enemies and deals considerable damage over range. At the time of this video, the slash deals 30 damage, as with any melee, and the projectile deals 55 damage over range. That is considerably more than is typical primary fire, which normally deals between 40 to 20 damage per shot, depending on how close you hit your enemy. The slash is a great tool to unlock way more damage from Magneto, who in my opinion already is one of the best picks for a tank you could ask for, because, well, he really just does everything. But personally, I wouldn't say it's strong enough where you want to ask for someone to swap off of a more meta hero onto Scarlet Witch just to get it. I also wouldn't say that it's so strong that there's no point in playing Magneto unless you have a Scarlet Witch. But if you already have a Scarlet on your team, then picking a Magneto for the team up is usually worth it. As for Volcanic Union, if you have a 4 on your team, this gives Storm and Captain America unique lightning abilities. Storm gains the ability to throw one bolt of lightning out that deals 50 damage and can bounce between nearby enemies up to 3 times. It can only strike an enemy once per cast. It's nice additional damage, but deals the same damage as her primary and only bounces to enemies that are really close, so it isn't really worth to swap into Storm just for the sake of the team up. Captain America gains the ability to power up and become a ranged hero for a few seconds, in addition to getting a small movement speed boost. The shield deals marginally more than its normal throne shield, but it's not that much of a game changer, so seeing as Storm nor Captain America are doing too hot right now, I wouldn't say that this team up is worth it either. As for Planet X Pals, having a Groot on your team allows Jeff or Rocket to hop onto his shoulders. While being on his shoulders, either Jeff or Rocket both receive a 35% incoming damage reduction. I can absolutely see either Groot, Jeff, or Rocket being in a game in its current meta, especially when you're playing defensively. The incoming damage reduction is huge, but isn't the only benefit from this team up, since it also guarantees that the Groot will stay topped up on account of having a support with area of effect healing sitting right on top of him, in addition to the support having near guaranteed peel. That being said, it is important for the Groot to be mindful of his positioning during this team up, since I do see a lot of them running straight into the enemy teams with a support riding onto their backs, inevitably serving their backlines up on a silver platter. I wouldn't force a pick for this team up if there's something else that would fit your team comp better, but it is a nice bonus if you're torn on what supports or tanks you want to pick. Moving on with Symbiote Bond, having a Venom on your team gives both Spider-Man and Penny Parker a new ability. They sort of work the same, but with one key difference. Upon activation, the team-up ability activates gooey spikes that come out of Spider-Man or Penny's suits. The spikes deal immediate damage while knocking back nearby enemies, and then keeps dealing damage every second to any enemy who happens to be close enough. Despite what the official website says, both Penny and Spider-Man receive a 50% incoming damage reduction during the ability. While the Penny combo is a nice bonus, it's really just a bonus if you happen to have the two tanks at the same time, especially since they don't really have much synergy outside of this team up, and they sort of both fill the same role, which leaves a massive gap in the overall team composition, and I wouldn't say it's worth it. But Spider-Man, however, directly benefits from this team up to the point where picking both Spider-Man and Venom at the same time for coordinated dives can be worth it. Not only do they synergize with the focus fire in the space, but the team up ability itself gives Spider-Man an additional 50 instant damage when performing a combo, which can make or break whether he fully kills someone or lets them get away. Now, Gamma Charge is interesting. If you have a Hulk in your team, then both Doctor Strange and Iron Man receive significant upgrades to their kits. Doctor Strange's area of effectability, Maelstrom of Madness, gains a significantly longer range, deals more damage per point of dark magic, and most importantly, you no longer receive an anti-heal debuff if you hit 100 dark magic, which lets you hold on to the max charge for as long as you want without penalty, so you can use it in the perfect moment. The Hulk and Strange combination makes this a pretty enticing pick to build your tank line around. Not only do they fill two different roles, one being a main tank and the other sort of an off tank while synergizing with their abilities, but the upgrade to dark magic turns Doctor Strange from an already insanely strong pick to one of the best tanks you could ask for. If you have one, I would really consider picking the other. As for Iron Man, this team up cranks his armor overdrive up another notch, with the marginal increase to his primary damage and a larger increase to his secondary damage as well. But the change isn't insane, and seeing as Iron Man is in a bit of a rough spot right now, I wouldn't say he's picking up on his own without a solid plan, let alone for a team up. Now, ammo reload on the other hand is absolutely insane, and unlike most other team ups, this one actually gives the team up holder a new ability as well. This team up lets Rocket throw a device on the floor that temporarily boosts the hell out of the Punisher and Winter Soldier's weapons for a little while, as long as they stay within the range of the booster. For the Punisher, he not only receives infinite ammo, but he also receives a massive 67% fire rate boost to both of his primary weapons. And I did the math for you. That puts your assault rifle at a damage of about 300 damage per second, which actually outperforms the damage of your ultimate without giving away that you actually have it in the first place. So if there's a Rocket on your team, then picking Punisher is almost always worth it, assuming you'll have the space to actually capitalize on it. And Winter Soldier isn't too far off either. While he only receives a 25% fire rate increase during the team up, he as well also receives the infinite ammo buff, and seeing as his tiny magazine size is the real thing holding him back, it makes a huge difference. And if my math is correct, that would let him fire about 10 more bullets for the duration of the team up than he would normally. I would not say that the team up is worth forcing for Winter Soldier, but effectively having a second ultimate with a way shorter cooldown for the Punisher definitely can be. Now, moving on, I am a bit torn on dimensional shortcuts. That is, if you have a magic on your team, this gives Black Panther and Psylocke a whole new ability. In Overwatch terms, this new ability turns you into Tracer. Activating the team up ability sends Black Panther or Psylocke back in time, rewinding to where they were 5 seconds ago. They'll also get half of their missing health back, but as bonus health for a few seconds. This makes a big difference in a dive composition, to the point where you could argue that Magic and Black Panther could be a must-have combo. But as good as it is, I'm not sure how good it is to force either Magic and Black Panther or Psylocke into a dive comp. Sure, they're all good at diving, but you do miss some versatility that you would have had with other picks. Magic also isn't as good at diving in and engaging as either Black Panther or Psylocke, so you lose some dive effectiveness this way too. Consider the combo and see if it fits, but as cool as it is, I don't think it's a must-have. Now, to be fair, you could have the team up just for the sake of enabling Black Panther or Psylocke, with the latter being pretty much meta right now, but then you still kind of miss out on having to force a Magic when you could have had something more versatile. Lunar Force is also a bit of a niche pick, but I can see it being pretty damn decent. If you have Cloak and Dagger on your team, then Moon Knight receives a new ability. This new ability allows Moon Knight to place a field on the ground where he goes, completely invisible for the next few seconds, as long as he stays within the field, dealing damage or using abilities won't break the invisibility, but taking damage will for as long as you keep taking damage. It's a nice bonus to an already incredibly strong hero in the right hands and the right situations, but in my opinion it's just too niche of a team up to force, and it is just a nice bonus to have if you for some reason are running both Cloak and Dagger and Moon Knight at the same time. The invisibility field is nice to play around and will prevent you from taking unnecessary chip damage and maybe even give you some nice angles to work around, as well as giving you a tool to win your duels. But against more competent teams, the field will give away your position more often than not, which just turns you into an easy target that they can pre-fire. If you aren't sure what to pick for DPS and have a Cloak and Dagger on your team, then I would argue that it might be worth to sway onto the Moon Knight, but it's nothing I would force. Guardian Revival, however, works a lot differently. If you have an Adam Warlock on your team, then Mantis or Starlord will become a ghost upon death, after which they can free float around and decide where to respawn at full health within the next few seconds. The revive has a pretty hefty cooldown of 120 seconds, and it's worth mentioning that your respawn timer does keep ticking as you are in the ghost form, meaning that if you do cancel it after enough time has passed, then you will actually instantly respawn in your own spawn. Canceling doesn't put the cocoon on cooldown, so it's worth hitting the cancel button if you know you can't cocoon safely, or you know that the fight is lost so you can save it for a better opportunity. The potential for being able to get a free revive wherever you want, whenever you want, every few minutes can be invaluable, whether you are a support or a flanker, both roles that are at a very high risk of getting, picked. If you have an Adam on your team and you have to choose between a Luna and a Mantis, then this definitely could be the decider to put you on Mantis. As for duelists, I think that there are better options than Starlord in most cases, even with Adam Warlock's team up active, so I wouldn't force him just to make the team up work. Now, chilling charisma makes a pretty big difference. If you have a Luna Snow, then Namor and Jeff get some pretty chilling upgrades. Namor gains access to another squid turret. Compared to his typical turrets, the frozen squid turret stays up for longer, it has twice the amount of health, deals more damage, and most importantly, slows any enemies that it hits. Now, the frozen squids share the maximum quantity with the normal turrets, meaning Namor at most can keep 2 squids active or 1 squid and 1 frozen squid active at a time. Generally speaking, I wouldn't say Namor is that good of a pick unless there are some niche situations when you are defending, and he's only worth picking up if you have a Luna, which by the way is in the meta, so it's likely gonna have the Luna at least. But if you don't play him with the power-up, then he's just not good enough to play. As for Jeff, the team-up ability levels up his Hawk Tua ability, where he now shoots frozen spitballs. These deal marginally more damage, especially because they have no damage fall-off, but most importantly, they also slow down any enemies that they hit. It's a nice upgrade for a pretty good hero, and if you want to run Jeff and you already have a Luna, then it can be worth it to get a little bit more out of your kit. Now, personally, I would probably do both Luna and Mantis for a support line, but I digress. Allied Agents is an interesting team-up ability. If you have a Hawkeye on your team, then Black Widow gains a discount version of his ultimate with a much lower cooldown that she can use practically whenever. Activating Super Sensory Hunt creates after images of any enemies in front of Black Widow. These after images are much easier to hit than an enemy jumping around and being impossible to hit, which lets Black Widow output a lot more damage reliably. The only issue is that she cannot headshot these after images, so if you can hit headshots, that's still gonna net way better results. While this ability does help Black Widow secure damage on the more difficult targets, using this team up requires both a Hawkeye and a Black Widow on the same team. These two heroes kind of fill the same role of securing picks, and I would argue, generally speaking, that Hawkeye does a much better job doing that. If you for some reason want to run double sniper, it's a nice bonus, but I wouldn't be running both of these heroes anyways, team up or not. Atlas Bond levels Luna Snow up quite a bit, giving her a new ability if there is an Iron Fist on the team. Activating her new ability, Frozen Chi, sends out a ring from Luna Snow, knocking back any nearby enemies and applying a slow to them for a few seconds. It is a great ability that can help Luna with peeling enemies off of her in a pinch, especially against a dive heavy or melee heavy composition, but unless the enemies actually dive and jump Luna, then you will rarely see much use of the ability. And while playing Luna is near guaranteed, you will rarely see Iron Fist in the more serious lobbies as he falls apart from any sort of focus. So I would say that if you are in the type of lobbies where Iron Fist is common, or there is one on your team, then it can be nice to have additional peel, especially since odds are if you are in these types of lobbies where Iron Fist is dominating, as a support you're not gonna get much help from your teammates anyways, so having that additional ability just for self peel is gonna make a huge difference. But if you can't relate to this, then the combo nor the team up isn't strong enough to force in almost every situation. As for Ezu Alumnus, this team up levels up Squirrel Girl if Spider-Man is on her team. During this team up, she gains access to the webbed acorn ability. Activating the ability, plays a brief animation before throwing out an acorn that snares an enemies near its impact for a few seconds, while also dealing a decent amount of damage. This, all things considered, is a welcome change to Squirrel Girl, who has a bit of a lackluster kit. It also combines pretty nicely with her primary fire, as it lets you get 2 shots off before the stun goes away, which is pretty great considering just how difficult lining these shots up can be. You can also follow it up with the rolling acorn to snare lock one enemy and potentially land a free kill. On its own, this team up makes Squirrel Girl a lot more viable to play thanks to that additional utility. If you find yourself in a situation with a Spider-Man on your team and enemies are grouping up a lot while giving you a lot of opportunities to spam like you normally would with Squirrel Girl because she's basically Junkrat, then she could be worth picking up just to make the most out of the team up. But I wouldn't force a Spider-Man just to get a lot more out of Squirrel Girl. And finally, there is the Fastball special. If both Hulk and Wolverine are on the same team, then Hulk can pick up Wolverine and throw him wherever he wants. Pressing the team up ability key starts a prompt which can be accepted by the other party who's also hitting the same key. Hulk can walk around and even leap while holding Wolverine. When throwing, the longer Hulk holds his primary fire, the faster Wolverine flies. The flying Wolverine receives the same bonus as his dash, where he grabs the first enemy that he touches along with an increased attack speed for a few seconds afterwards. But it almost goes without saying that his actual dash ability won't go on cooldown. Initiating the throw has a pretty long range, so it can be used as an escape as much as an engage. It is a bit of a troll combo, which I guess can be used to snipe backlines or flyers, but generally speaking, it's not really worth going for it, let alone picking both Hulk and Wolverine in the first place. Especially since Wolverine at the moment really isn't in that good of a place. Hulk is fine, but I'd rather pick any other duelist no matter what. But anyways, those were all the team ups. Hopefully this was helpful. If it was, make sure to like and subscribe and check out the video on the screen for more Banger Rivals content. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Peace out.